Welcome. So today we are healing the inner child, and it's carefully unfolding with our teacher here on this full moon healing day. And many of us have heard about the inner child. Those of us who have been on the spiritual path, the inner child comes around, and for many it can be this sort of nebulous construction of us thinking of ourselves as a child, maybe, or going into the past and thinking about our past, our actual childhood, or for some it's reviving the inner playfulness and the inner childlike nature of our being. So it has a variety of connotations that people have meditated on throughout the ages, throughout the years. So we've been given the definition that the inner child is the link between the subconscious and the conscious mind. And it's an active nature within us that we are working with, whether we realize it or not. And part of this linking nature of our subconscious and conscious selves is our programming and how we've been programmed in this life. And we wanted to start off by first saying that we are not victims. So as we move through these teachings, to be understanding of ourselves and of our loved ones and of our situations and blessings that we've had in life, that it really is it's a teaching and it's a gift. So although many people, so how have we been programmed? We may have seen our parents fighting when we were young. We may not have seen them fighting, but we knew they were fighting. So there's all these, it's not just like, oh, I saw my parents fighting. It could also be, I know my parents are fighting. There's something going on right now that they're not talking, or there's some little passive aggressive, this is just one example of what we were impressed with during our developmental years. Impressed with maybe parents fighting, impressed being told to act a certain way, being told to be quiet, being told to calm down, being told to stay in the other room or stay outside, or don't interrupt adult conversations. I don't think you have the capacity to play the piano, or I don't think you have the creative talent to be an artist. We don't have enough money for you to go to medical school, so don't do it. the choice that you're making is gonna leave you poor for the rest of your life. Um, if you don't make this choice, you're gonna be poor for the rest of your life or during your life. All of these things that we're told, or even if we hear maybe they're telling our siblings, or we hear a teacher say something even to our siblings, it's our entire environment that we're in. And so this inner child is programmed not only by, negative or positive experiences, because it could also be positive, but then become even though it may seem positive, it still takes over your will center. It starts to disrupt your own personal will center and our ability to experience the inner child. So if we're told to be a lawyer, it's like creating a ripple within us, or a wave or a path, or a stream of consciousness, however you'd like to call it, that influences our own personal will. And we also know that being considered a willful child is negative for a lot of people. Like, that child is out of control, they're stubborn, they're unruly, they just do what they want. We're hearing a story about, but even, so all these influences come in and help shape who we are as a being. And we act out of those, whether it's conscious or not. And it's very related with our will center, and how we end up moving through life now. So even though it's the past and the inner child, this healing is not just about the past, because it's all one. But it's just so it's not that when we do this healing, we're thinking, oh, we need to heal the past. But it's saying, what am I now? What am I doing now? Where is this tendency coming from? And what is that feeling? What could that certain feeling that might be holding me up? The confusion, the difficulty making choices, the feeling like you're not getting past a certain point, like you're blocked, you're not able to fulfill a certain part of your dream. All these blocks that we have to help us really learn how to be free. And so one other thing about this is that we're not victims. It is our responsibility to not only recognize maybe what we've experienced in the past, and maybe not judge it, but to just recognize and let it go. And in the moment, in this present moment, recognizing what we're doing to ourselves and to others. As one of the main tenets, I would say, of the Spirit of the Lotus, one of the things that we've always heard and been taught here is not to go over somebody else's will. And we, in a way, from our programming, are trained to take the impact of having our will gone over. We our parents, loved ones, grandparents go over our will. We've been taught what it feels like, and it's all a circle, and we don't want to do that to others, but if we're not super conscious of how we've been impacted, we do and may end up going over other people's will. So it is a narrow bridge, and it's a great healing, and it's a great joy. And this will center is above the emotional center. So the more wavy the emotions are that we're having, the more our will is just all over the place. So we're just slowly, I shouldn't say slowly because for some, no judgment, but we're healing, calming the emotions, healing the will center, realizing that we've had all this program that jumbles up our will center and is a great factor in our choices. And though some people don't feel like they have a choice, they just react out of a habit or out of fear, it is a choice to react like that. So calming the emotions, realizing before we do it to anybody else, we're doing it to ourselves first. And where did we pick this up? And our next presenter is Reverend Daniel. And so it's healing the inner child and balancing, because we have it so locked up inside of us and repressed, we may not even realize what we're doing to ourselves, to others. Many people have good intentions and love, and it's how, where are we coming from? Are we going over other people's will, or pushing, fighting back from our childhood, or from that feeling of not being in control and having those waves hitting our own will center, that we know how it feels, and maybe that's how we should be treating others. So with that, we would like to bring Reverend Daniel onto the chair.
All right, we'll stand.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Lotus. Thank you. To kind of recap healing the inner child, one level is certainly looking at childhood, right? Looking at the things that were very painful, things that happened to us, maybe going into those childhood memories, reimagining them in a different way. That's one level. But Reverend Tar also shared there's another level, and that's when the conscious mind, so all of our practices that we do, all of our chanting, all of our meditation, the conscious mind, you realize the conscious mind has to earn the trust of the subconscious mind. Because the conscious mind, what you would call, I guess, the judgmental mind, the mind of discernment. So, it was shared that 98% of our sensory development comes in our childhood. And a couple ways came to mind on how to heal that, and this actually came right as we started this retreat. So we actually stopped off at a restaurant to have a meal right before this retreat began, and it was it was a Vietnamese restaurant, and we just sat down to eat a meal. And we noticed that this family came in, and they were very excited to eat. And the person who was making the meals, she was like, "Oh, Daniel," and this Daniel was like this little baby. And Daniel was very like excited. It was very interesting, and the mother just handed the baby to this person who was making the meals, and just kind of noticed Daniel was kind of like, he was grabbing the breast of this lady who wasn't his mom, but he just trusted. And another Daniel came, which is actually the father of that kid, and he came in, and this is what we noticed. We noticed that when they sat down to eat, the baby Daniel was actually putting his mouth, like literally licking like all of the like table surfaces, and the mother was thinking, well, he needs to actually strengthen his immune system. And there was no judgment. There was like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. And they were just kind of smiling and trusting in this process. So possibly one way, is to see that subconscious desire, right? Because babies, they only learn when their mouths are wide open, when they're fully open and their aura is open. And granted, when they're in a safe place, kind of like this, in this retreat home, surrounded by people who are, quote unquote, on a path, it allows the subconscious mind to come forth. It gives us permission to do what we need to do. The second aspect that kind of came is that yesterday we found this little, I don't know if you can see it, but it's like a little pendant, and it kind of goes over, and when we looked at it, it was kind of under the dresser, and we thought, because this is kind of looks like a Christian home, there's 10 commandments everywhere, we thought, oh cool, it's like an Archangel Michael or something like that. But after we looked up closely, it actually says Billy the Kid. So so it was interesting, because when we first saw it, we looked like a dead cockroach. I'm like, I don't want to touch that. But then something was kind of drawing it, and then as we got closer, we're like, oh cool, it's like Archangel Michael. And then when we read it, Billy the Kid, Willie the Kid. In history, we think about, when you hear the word Billy the Kid, right? Most people think scoundrel, scumbag. But here in this home, just wonder, can we imagine that Billy the Kid is loved by, that all these things were meant to happen, and that there is a love that's so profound, a love that's so innocent, that can look at Billy the Kid and can redeem that past in our eyes. Now imagine if Billy the Kid were actually to walk in here right now and just kind of come here. It says on Wikipedia he was like 5'6" in bed, but if he walked in here right now, he probably might think he's in heaven. He might think, oh cool, these people are not judging me. And what's interesting is, we read this on Wikipedia, there's a point where all of his friends were pardoned by the governor, except for him. And so basically, everyone was given a clean slate, except for Billy the Kid, so that he had to keep running from the law, and he had to keep shooting people, because the governor said, promised him he would give him a pardon, backed out. And so, just kind of thinking about that in our subconscious mind, right? Instead of the governor judging it, instead of the conscious mind judging it, can we believe that God can actually work through us to be what we are? Really, with that, that's the only question that we have, and believe it would be nice to be an honor to be led into a meditation by Reverend Tara.